This is the Zoom F6, and today we're going to be going over a little overview on how it all works. We're going to be getting you set up, formatting an SD card, running microphones into the actual recorder itself, and having a little look at the files and what we see when we try and import things into Premiere. So let's get started. So I'm just going to go over some of the actual physical inputs and outputs on this device. On the left hand side we have our inputs 1, 2 and 3 on XLR connections. We also have a 3.5mm line out here too. And here is a USB-C. We can actually use this device as a USB interface if we'd like to multi-track audio into our computer, or we could also power it off this if we wanted. Front panel, we have our faders on the front here for each input. We also have our transport controls. We can go and skip through tracks over on the right hand side and the left hand side. We've also got our menu button and our select button here. Continuing on the right hand side, we have the rest of our inputs. 4, 5 and 6. We have the tiny little on button over here. Got a timecode input on 3.5mm and also our headphone output here with a dedicated headphone volume. If we rotate to the back, we see we've got these little contacts here, which is where we can actually slide in our batteries that come with this mixer. But underneath here, this is where we keep our SD card. So yeah, you're going to want to put in your SD card first before we actually put the batteries in. And yeah, we'll get to that now. So when we receive the F6 from the asset store, it should come with 2 of these batteries over here, a dual battery charger for these batteries, a little cable that can connect to the charger via USB to charge your batteries, and also the actual unit itself. So the F6 is quite flexible in terms of powering. There's quite a few options that we can do. If we look on the bottom, you can actually undo this, pull out this, this door, and put in 4 AA batteries if you'd like to power it that way. We could also use the USB-C connection here to power the unit if we wanted to via a power bank. But this is what we're interested in. We're interested in using one of these batteries to slot onto the back here and power the unit. Just make sure you put the SD card in first. Cool, so let's give that a go. We have our pins right here. We have our battery. You see where the pins go in? So let's push this in. Hear that click? That means that we've got it all locked in and nothing is going to fall out. Great, so now we can actually start to power the unit on. Okay, so we've got our battery plugged in. Let's power on the unit. So remember, it's on the right hand side, just down here. Hold that one down. Screen jumps alive. And it should show us our main view. Okay. So here you can see we've got sort of tracks 1 all the way to 6. This is where we're going to see our levels. Right, these are our meters to let us know sort of what level we're recording things at. Right. We've also got a time up here, which is the time left on the card. We've got a battery indicator that just says sort of what voltage we got left, and external, which means that we're using an external battery. We're not using the internal AA's. Okay. So you see, it's just gone black. Hasn't just died. It's just trying to save some power because we're not running any audio into it right now. So if we hit this button up here, this one here, that's the menu button. So that means we can access our menu and change our settings. And what I want to do now is actually format our card, get it ready so we can record on it, and it's got no other data on it, and it's ready to be used with this recorder. So we can navigate the menu by using these up and down buttons on the right hand side of the screen. So let's use them to go down to System. Tends to be where sort of format related things live. Go into System. SD card is what we want. Okay, then we can navigate down. Now we can format the SD card. And it's going to double check that because we are wiping information. It wants to just make sure that we are certain we want to get rid of all the data on this card. Let's execute that. Sweet. Lovely. Let's use the menu button to go back a couple of levels. Nice. And now we've formatted the card, the second thing I want to do is make sure we're recording in the right format. So let's go up and go to the record menu. Hit that. Okay, cool. So now we can choose a mode that we want to record in, a sample rate, and also a file format. Those are the main things we're focusing on today. So let's go to mode. And yeah, we want to be recording in 24-bit, right? I don't want to see anyone recording in anything ridiculous like 16-bit. You can try 32-bit if you'd like, but this is something I want you to practice, is recording in 24-bit, please. 24-bit, you see I've selected it, but I need to go to the menu to go back. Okay. Sample rate, 48 kilohertz, so 2448 is just standard, that's what we record for film and television. And then we have our file format. So this is a little bit different. This is sort of how our files are going to appear to us when we take them off the SD card. So if we go and select file format, we have some options, right? We've got polyphonic, or mono/stereo. So the difference for this is that if I'd selected mono/stereo and I had, say, 6 mics run into this machine, what it would do is when I recorded, it would create 6 individual files, 1 file per track, kind of like the DR70s used to do. But if I created a polyphonic file format, if I used the poly format, I would have each individual channel as multi-channel audio in 1 file. Okay, so all of my tracks, all of my microphones would exist in 1 file, and they'd still be isolated. We can still get to them, but it just means that there's less files that need to be navigated through in post-production. So poly is a way more efficient way of recording your audio. Don't worry, you're still going to have everything separated. You can still separate things afterwards, but it just means that when we're moving files around on the computer, like, they're actually all in just like 1 file. Okay, so let's do that. Poly. And down here we have something called pre-record. I've got this already enabled, but what this does is, if we have it on and I hit the record button, it's actually going to record 6 seconds before I hit that button, as well as whatever comes afterwards too. So this can be quite good if you're trying to record something unpredictable, but it can also be quite good if you're working on, say, a drama film and for whatever reason you're not paying attention and you miss like the clapperboard or the slate, maybe you've got your hands busy. As long as it's within 6 seconds and you hit that record button, you'll still pick up that clap and that slate. Okay, so that can be really useful, not having to get then sort of end slates and things like that. In our record setting, as well as setting our bit depth and our sample rate, something that's really important is that we go down here to our LR track. Right, let me hit this little tick. Basically, we record all of our tracks individually, okay, as ISOs. That's great, that's what we want. But there's also a left and right stereo mix track that's recorded too. But something that's really important, and please don't have this turned on, is if you click on here, there's an option here for on, left, right only. If this is enabled, you might think you're recording everything individually, but all you're recording is just the left and right track. So please either just leave it off, or if you want a mix to sit on top of everything, just on, but do not have it on this setting if you want everything to be recorded individually. Just avoid this, please. Okay, so now we've formatted the card. Let's have a little look about creating folders on the actual SD card and keeping our sound files nice and organised. So if we go to the menu button up here, we press that. Cool. Let's navigate up to Finder. So this is where we can actually go through sort of the root of our SD card. So let's select that SD. Cool. So it's already created since we formatted this card. It's called itself F6 SD. That's fine. We have a trash here. We also have a false take. So if ever we record something and we want to get rid of it, it will automatically go into a trash or a false take folder, which is good because you never know, you might need it in the end. So let's go down to new folder and let's create a new folder. So navigating the actual keyboard using these buttons is a little bit fiddly. The way it works is that the stop button is the left, like navigate left. This is the delete button here if we accidentally put something in we want to get rid of, and then this is navigate to the right. Okay, so we can just go through like this if we like, but we could also use these as up and down buttons too. Okay, so let's just put in my name. Cool. So it does take a bit of getting used to, but it is possible. Let's go over here. Okay. Now it's asked us do we want to reset take number? And I'll show you what that does in a second. Yeah, sure, why not? Sweet. So now anything we record, it's going to be popped into this HAL folder. So this can be quite good if you're naming things, like if you wanted a folder for each scene that you've recorded. Makes things nice and clear. So let's go back to our actual main view. Okay. So if I hold down this menu button, something should appear up here. Oh, hello. So that is basically telling us what our next file is going to be called. It says scene 1, 001. Okay, I wonder why that is. So let's go to our menu button. If we go down to record, and we go up to something called metadata, this is where we can actually choose what we want our file to be called. And I've already set a scene name here. So if you go, you see, it says scene name, mode username. Okay, that's what we want. We could call our file whatever the folder's called. We could call it the date if we wanted to, or we can actually set our own name. So let's do that. That's kind of what I've done in this example. I've gone down and I've set the name to scene 1. Okay? So that means that the next file I create is going to be called scene 1 001. Okay, so it'd be like scene 1 take 1 essentially. So let's just record this. No record tracks. So I haven't run anything into this yet. I'll do that in a minute, but let's to record armor track, you just turn the fader and it makes a little click and a red light comes on. It's also indicated down here too. Right, so this is just for an example. There's no audio coming through, but if I record, you see I've got pre-record on, so it started from 6 seconds. And we have scene 1, take 1 being recorded. And let's stop that. Fine. That's now as well, if we go to our Finder, you'll see that is now in our folder on the SD card here. And we can select that and play it back if you wanted to by hitting the play button. Excellent. So if I actually hold down this button to see what the next take is going to be called, you'll see it moves up to number 2. So it moves up in increments each take. And then each time you create a new folder, it asks if you want to reset that and take it back down to 1, which I imagine you would do in this case. So that's a little bit about sort of like naming takes and navigating the Finder menu. So I've currently got a boom plugged into channel 1 and a radio microphone plugged into channel 2. As you can see in our main view, we've actually got 30 hours left on our card. So we've got quite a long time. We've also got the name of the last file we recorded, and if we hold down the menu button, you can see what file's coming next. Alright, so let's get our boom and our radio microphone going. First we need to record enable our track, and it's a really easy thing to do. What you want to do is just go up to your fader. Don't know if you heard that click, but now you see it's alive. And you might notice that this knob here doesn't actually change the gain on our ISO that's being recorded, but it is sending it through to our main mix. Okay, so if you left that about 12 o'clock, these would be exactly the same. Okay, so how do we actually set gain then for our recording channel? Well, we do that via the PFL menu. So if we hit PFL, it already knows this is called boom, because I said it earlier. But it might just be called something else, just track 1 for you. And what you want to do is you want to come down to source and you want to make sure that this is on mic phantom power. If you're running any boom microphone into a mixer recorder, it needs to be sent phantom power, else it isn't going to work. Really important thing to know. And it has to be 48 volt phantom power. Don't do anything stupid like changing settings to sort of 12 volts or something like that. It needs to be 48 volts phantom power sent to a microphone. Right. We also have other options. We've got line. Say if we were taking a feed from a desk, a mixing desk or something like that, we'd want it to be running at line level. And we've also got mic level above as well. So that's mic, no phantom power. Okay, and that's what we'd run radio microphones into, like the Rode Link that I've got down here with me. So let's select mic phantom power, because that's working. We've got a level coming through. Our boom's good. And then let's go down to trim. Trim is gain, okay? So this is our gain for our ISO, our individual track that's being recorded. So let's select that gain. For instance, if you see, I can just pull this right down, you see the levels going down. You're not hearing any difference because I'm not using this microphone right now. Or we can pull it up, all the way up, 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 up. And now you see we're clipping. So yeah, this is where you're setting your gain, over here. And I kind of like ISO gain to kind of come in at around about, yeah, kind of sort of -24 to 12. You know, if I go a bit louder, you see, I'm sort of clipping on the camera right now, but you can sort of see I'm not going to peak the actual input on the F6. But you have noticed, maybe you haven't, there is this sort of red line that has appeared up here. When I just pulled up the gain all the way to the top, I did end up clipping. And it's presented itself a clip indicator. Okay, so how do we actually get rid of that clip indicator? It's there, but we're not clipping anymore, and it's still there. So let's jump back here. So let's go all the way back. Clip indicators all round. That's annoying. Press down these two buttons, and it clears them. So this is a shortcut to sort of clear the clipping indicator. It's quite a useful thing to know. Let's go back to our PFL. So it automatically goes to our first channel when we press the PFL button from the main view. But if we press it again, it goes to our second channel, then to our third channel, and then obviously it will go to our fourth, fifth, and sixth. So we can actually go through each of the inputs that we've connected and just sort of tell it what it wants to expect, what its source is, set the gain for each one. And also when we're on a PFL menu for something, such as this boom, that means we're going to hear it through our headphone outputs, just by itself. Really good way of just making sure that our levels are set nicely and everything's sounding good. So, okay, that's fine, that's active. And you see now I've moved on to my radio microphone. It's plugged in. You notice that too is not lit up. So let's record enable it. Turn that to 12 o'clock for now. And there we go. It's going to be recorded as an ISO along with our boom. It's coming in at mic level, which is what we want. We don't want to send it phantom power. And now we can set the gain for our... Oh, it's got to scroll all the way through. Now we can set the gain for our trim. So if I'm talking about this level, I mean, that's just about okay, I'd say. Maybe a tiny less, why not? Yeah, about 50. Great. We can also set on the PFL, we can choose where things are panned. So although these are being recorded as individual files, they're also being sent through to a mix, which is what these faders are doing. And then we can choose where in a stereo mix it sits, whether it sits to the left of our ears, to the right, or centre. Okay, so let's just leave it on centre for now, but that's just a good thing to be aware of moving forwards. Let's get recording, I suppose. So record file, big red record button. There we go. Pre-record's on, so it started from 6 seconds in. And that's enough for now. Cut there, so stop. It thinks about it. And now we can actually play back that take if we want to. And that will play back through our headphones. You see the levels bouncing up and down. Excellent. We can also, there's obviously our file that we just recorded. We can also scroll back through the files, you see. I can go back to earlier takes if I'd like. And I can play them back too. Okay. So very, very simple navigation in terms of transport controls. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about monophonic and polyphonic WAV files. So if you remember in the record setting, we had the option to choose what we wanted the files to be recorded as. I've done both, so we can look at the differences. Here in my folder I've called mono, I've recorded a monophonic WAV. And it says here, it's basically created a folder, right? So the name of the file, .take, and then that's all sort of recorded each track, one boom, two booms, and a radio, and the mix, all as individual files, okay? So that's monophonic file format, okay? And then over here we've got polyphonic file format. If we click on that, you see it has still got all of these tracks in it, but it's just put it as one file. So it makes it way more convenient for us. And actually, if we go over to Pro Tools, it would be the same in Premiere as well. we can click on it, drag it in, and you see there's all our tracks. There's only one file, but we have all of our tracks separated, and now we can actually do a mix as we'd like. Okay, so that's the difference between monophonic and polyphonic WAVs.